Hi, bom dia. My name is Sarah Thomas, also known as Lady Leonor da Costa, and I'm here today to teach you how to make Spanish pastries. I first encountered these Spanish pastries actually while I was doing an Iron Chef type competition at a medieval event, and they gave us the Das Kochbuch der Sabina Welserin. I don't speak German, so that's hard for me. We had to make recipes from that, and as I was leafing through it, I saw that there was one called Spanish pastries. I thought that was interesting. I was like, what are Spanish pastries doing in a German cookbook? And then I realized that if they were really Spanish pastries and not just pastries attributed by her to Spain, they would show up in period Spanish cookbooks possibly. So I went looking for a recipe for Spanish pastries, and my thought was that perhaps just as French fries aren't called French in France, Spanish pastries wouldn't be called Spanish in Spain. And sure enough, I found a recipe that was just called pastries that corresponded to the ones that were in Sabina Welserin's cookbook. Sabina Welserin's recipe says, first prepare a firm dough with eggs and fat and roll it out very thin, as long as the table, that's pretty long, and sprinkle ground almonds and sugar, butter, or fat over it, and roll it up over itself like a sausage. Afterwards, cut it in pieces and close up both ends. In this manner, make one after the other and turn the underside to the top, and bake it in a smooth pan with fat in the pan, and let it bake in a weak heat with a hot cover over the top, and serve it cold. The recipe that I found was in Ruperto de Nola's Libro del Koch, and it was called Pastries of Fine Sugar. You must take a pound of peeled almonds and grind them dry without casting any water or broth on them, so that they will become very oily, because the oilier they are, the better they will be. And then take 1.5 pounds of white sugar that has been pulverized and mix it well with the almonds. And then when everything is well mixed and ground, if it should be very hard, soften it with a little rose water. And when the dough has been softened a little, dust a little ginger over it at your discretion, well ground. And then take dough made from flour and knead it with good eggs and sweet fine oil. And from this dough make tortillas or empanadillas or spiral cakes, and fill them with said dough. And then put a casserole on the fire with good sweet oil. And when it boils, cast in these empanadillas and cook them until they turn yellow like the color of gold. And when you take them from the fire, cast liquefied honey on top, and upon the honey cast sugar and cinnamon. So those are the pastries that we're going to be making today. I'm going to show you one that's like Sabina Welserin's recipe, and then we're also going to make the one that's more like Nola's recipe. Some of the things that they have the same is that they both call for the dough to be made with eggs and fat. I'm going to choose to use lard for the fat in the Welserin one. But in the Nola one, I'm going to use olive oil. Olive oil is prevalent in Spain, and it also would make the pastries able to be eaten by us secret Jews. So that's my persona. I am a converso. So that's what we're going to be using for the fat. We're also going to use almond flour rather than pounding almonds ourselves. That's because, for convenience sake, because we can buy almond flour almost everywhere now. But almonds, that's a lot of pounding, and with some of the health conditions I have, I don't feel like doing a whole lot of pounding. So we are going to be assisted by my assistant here, Mr. Hamilton Beach. He's going to help us with some of the kitchen work. Another thing too is the shape that's different. Welserin calls for a very long as the table, roll of dough. We're going to make it fit in a pan, no offense. But then she bakes it in the oven, whereas Nola wants you to make these little individual pastries, individual bite-sized pastries, and then fry them in oil. So those are the two techniques that we're going to see today to make pastries with. All right, we're going to make the pastry crust. I've already made the crust that goes with the Welserin recipe. That's the lard crust. So now I'm going to make the oil crust for the Nola recipe. I've got 2 cups of flour. I've got half a cup of oil. I've got 2 eggs and some salt. I'm going to put in about a teaspoon of salt. It's just a very basic pastry crust recipe. I got it from my sister, and I actually adapted it for the oil pastry. When you take a pastry crust recipe that calls for a solid fat like lard or butter, and you adapt it for oil, you want to use a little bit less oil than you would solid fat. It kind of absorbs better into the flour. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put all this stuff and leave it to Hamilton, and Hamilton is going to make it into a dough. Now, what's going to happen? You're not going to be able to hear me while Hamilton is doing his work. So what's going to happen is that you'll start to see it make crumbs of pastry, and then they'll start to be like globs of pastry, and then they'll start to become a pastry dough. We're going to have to add a little bit of water to get it to get into a dough. So let's do it. I'm going to put in 2 cups of flour. We're just going to dump everything in. 2 cups of flour, half cup of oil, 2 eggs, and just a itty bitty bit of the salt. All right. Now we're going to let her rip. And that's it. That's all it takes. Thank you, Hamilton. You've been a good kitchen slave with this today, so we are going to let you have a little bit of a break. I'm going to take a little piece of wax paper, and I'm going to take my dough out and put it on the wax paper. And then I'm going to put that nice ball of pastry dough into the refrigerator, and we're going to let it sit for about an hour. All right, our pastry dough has rested, and so now we're going to make the fillings for the pastry. First, I'm going to make the filling for the Welserin style pastries, and then I'm going to make the filling for the Nola style. So for the Welserin style, I'm just going to let Hamilton do some more work for me. This will be his last chore of the day, and then he gets to go home and take a bath. So I'm going to put a cup of almond flour and half a cup of butter, just 1 stick of butter. And I'm going to put about a cup of sugar. And I'm just going to let Hamilton go to town and do his thing. Okay, so what it's formed is kind of like a little dough, kind of. And that's going to be our filling for the Welserin pastries. Sorry. I keep forgetting not to lick my fingers on camera. All right. Thank you very much, Hamilton. You may go. So now I'm going to roll out the lard dough. And I like to roll my dough out on wax paper. So here's my nice lard dough. I'm going to break that in half. And I've got my rolling pin. Just going to roll that out into kind of a rectangle. Roll it out nice. Those edges, put them down. I am not a pastry chef, so if you know a better way to roll out your pastry dough, please use that. Roll it out as long as we can get it. The original says as long as the table. I don't know if that's an exaggeration or you're really supposed to roll it out that long, but I don't think you can get it into the oven if it's as long as this countertop is. So we're just going to roll it out as far as we can get it. Get back. Nice and thin. See if it's thin enough, almost. Sorry, can't see what I'm doing here. So, see what I'm doing there? Rolling it out into a nice rectangle. So now that it's rolled out, I'm going to take some of this filling. Take about half that filling, kind of spread it out. Kind of spread it out like you're making sushi and you're putting the rice on. A little bit away from the edges. Further up here. Okay, so it looks like this. And now I'm going to, let me turn this up. Now I'm going to roll it up. So I'm just going to kind of roll that. Just going to kind of roll it up like that. I made this little roll. Right. And I'm going to get a cookie sheet. And I'm going to butter it. Open stick of butter here. All softened and nice. Ready to go. Smear that butter on. Butter, butter, butter. Gotta have all the butter. Can't have too much butter. All right, I'm gonna put this on there. I'm gonna seal those ends up a little bit. I'm gonna put some more butter on top. Butter, 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 butter. All the butter. All right. I will do the second one off camera. Get some of that butter off of my hands. All right. Now I'm going to make the filling for the oil pastries. So we're going to take a bowl. And we're going to put in about 3/4 of a cup of sugar. Half. Again. And get my almond flour. Okay. So we're going to mix sugar, almond flour, and some olive oil. We're going to put in about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. The reason I'm putting olive oil in the filling, even though the original recipe doesn't call for it, the almonds would have been ground with their oil in them already, but almond flour doesn't have as much oil as just like ground up almonds would. So we are going to add in some oil to give it a little bit of oiliness that it needs to go together. I'm also going to add 2 teaspoons of rose water and half a teaspoon of powdered ground ginger. So I'm just going to put those in and I'm going to mix them up. I'm just going to mix those up just like this. You don't need Hamilton to do that for you. He's a good guy, but he only should handle the heavy stuff. This stuff is pretty light. So you can see that we're mixing it. Trying to get all the clumps of ginger thoroughly mixed in. And so what we're going to end up with when we're done pressing out all those clumps is we're going to get a dough, sort of. It's not really a dough like the other one was. It's going to be more crumbly, but you'll see that it kind of holds together a little bit when you put it together like that. It's starting to like hold together just a little bit. Okay, when we get that all mixed up, that's gonna that's going to be our filling for the other pastry. If you want it a little bit folded together, you can add a little more oil. In fact, it must be a really dry day today because everything is dry. So I'm going to add a little more oil. And again, this is that olive oil. It's extra virgin, but it's not the like high quality stuff that tastes like green olives. So it actually is fairly neutral in cooking. There, see how it's forming this nice dough that when you squish it, it kind of molds. It's kind of like a kinetic sand kind of a thing. So those are our fillings for the these are our fillings. So what we're going to do with our pastry rolls is we are going to cover them in foil. I'm just going to make like a little foil. I'm just going to make like a little foil tent for it. Okay. I'm going to make the other one off camera and put that here. And then we're going to put them in the oven and bake them at 350 for about an hour, I think, if I remember correctly. All right, now we're going to roll out the oil pastry and make the fried version of the pastries now that the one in the oven is in the oven cooking. While we're cooking that, we're going to make these pastries. So here's my oil pastry. I'm just going to put that here, a little wax paper on top of it. It's easier to roll out that way. I forgot that in the cooking segment. And then I'm just going to roll it thin. Roll it out however I want. It doesn't matter because we're going to cut it. We're going to cut it with a jar lid or jar band. Let me show you. Band. So this is about the right size for this. This is a wide mouth jar band, mason jar band. And I'm going to roll this pastry dough out until it's nice and thin. And like I said before, you can use like a commercial pastry dough that you can get at the store, something like that. It's about that thin. So I'm going to cut out some circles from this. I'm just going to use that wide mouth band lid to cut out some circles. Okay. I'm going to take a little of the filling, the filling that we made before. I'm going to take a little of that filling and I'm going to put it in the center. And I'm going to kind of mush it together, maybe a little too much filling. Okay, I'm going to kind of mush it together into a little bitty ball in the middle, or a little bitty pile in the middle. And then I'm going to take a little bit of rose water. I have some rose water in here, or you can use plain water, and just kind of moisten the edge. And then I'm going to pinch it and keep pinching it over the filling. And you can make many different shapes with these. You can make all kinds of shapes. One thing that you can do with this is you can kind of pleat the edge a little bit. So pleat it, pleat it, and pleat it, and pleat it, and pleat it, and pleat it. Okay. Kind of shape it till it's like an empanada kind of a shape. Another thing you can do, get a little more filling in there. The oil dough is really stretchy. So you want to be careful working with it. But stretchiness can be a good thing, so it's a little more flexible. So let's pinch the sides together, and then let's pinch these sides together. And it's going to make a little four-sided shape that's kind of like a biretta, which is the hat that cardinals wear. Pinch that all together in the middle. You can make this little biretta shape. Another shape that's cool to make. Going in the center of that, and let's do rose water around the edge. I'm just going to pinch it into a moon shape. And then another shape you can do. Another shape you can do is kind of a round shape like this. Take a little bit of filling in the middle. We're going to start off like the moon shape. You know, we're gonna make kind of a moon out of it, but then we are going to put the corners together and cross them like this, making kind of like a little cup shape, almost like a little pasta. Pinch those edges, make sure they're nice and closed. So those are some of the different shapes you can make, and you can just keep rolling out more dough. While we're heating up our oil, just a little bit about the oil. I put it in a frying pan, and I've made the pan. I'm gonna heat it till the oil pops. And one way that you can tell that your oil is ready is if you take a little bit of water and put it in. I'm going to take just a little bit of water and flick it in. When I hear that water start to pop, I know I'm close. And when I hear it sizzling, I know I'm there. So any kind of shape that you can do with pot stickers or anything like that is going to be fine for these. The shapes that Nola describes are empanadillas, which is like a little empanada. And he also describes spiral cakes, which is what we just made for Sabina Welserin. So you could take like a strip of dough and roll it up, put a little filling on it and roll it up. You could also, I guess you could shape it pretty much any way you want. There's some cool videos going around Facebook right now that talk about some different ways to fold pot stickers. You can use any of those kind of shapes. Just get creative, whatever you want. Also, another variation you could do if you really felt like it is if you want to do something heraldic, or you're doing like a gender reveal or something like that, you could put a little food coloring in the filling. So we're just going to keep making those until our oil is ready. So we're just going to put a little bit of filling in here. Close them up. The oil is about an inch deep in the pan. So we're just going to wait for it to be hot enough. In the meantime, we are going to shape our little paste. A little burrata shape, I think, works better with a stiffer dough because the oil dough is pretty pliable. It's a lot more pliable than the lard dough. And you can make them any size you want to. If you want to make a bigger size or a smaller size, it might be a little hard to make a smaller size, but bigger you could probably do if you wanted to make pastries that were basically a couple of servings. But these are all like, they're not completely bite-sized because they're they have to take, they're about 2 bites this size, but you know, they're individual serving size pastries. I kind of like the moon shape. I'm feeling the moon shape today. Seal these up here. I think that one wants to be a little ravioli. See how we can hear water sizzle and pop? That means we're almost there. Form them like this. These cute little shapes. Make them however you want. Express yourself artistically. You could probably, with a little work, make some people shapes, although you'd have to use a cookie cutter or something to cut them out and then fill them and then press the edges together. But yeah, you could do that. You can make whatever shape you want. It is your pastry. Push that down in the middle. Shut it, shut it, shut it, shut it, shut it. So the moon is that basic shape, and then if you want, you can pleat the edges a little bit. Just kind of pleat them. Make it more of a traditional empanada shape. Check the oil. Do that. I think we're about ready. All right. So use tongs. Be smart. We're going to put those in and just let them fry. You got to be careful putting them in because the dough is a little soft. But it will be nice when you fry it. Wait. We're just going to let those fry for a minute. It doesn't take very long for them to fry. And while those are frying, I'm just going to keep rolling them out, making them and rolling them out. Let's take a look, see how they're doing. Okay, they're getting there. So they're starting to get a little golden on each side. Checking them and turning them over when they're golden enough. While I wait and make more. I have a number of volunteer test eaters, and they are going to have a good day today. I'm going to get a plate ready, put them on. I'm going to put some paper towels on there. Even they are nice and golden. See how that is? Nice and golden. Now that's hot oil. I'm just going to put them over there. Flip. Put that one. That's good. Get some more into there. You may not use up all your filling, and that's okay. It just depends how much dough you have and how much work you feel like doing, and how many test eaters you have. Going down just a little on the oil. Just go for a bit. I'm going to put about a little spoonful of filling in there. Press it together. It's not sticking, so I'm going to get a little bit of rose water. Stick it together, make a little burrata. I'll be able to get a few more out of this dough. This is the hot part of it. It's over. It's golden. I think I'll make one more. If you roll the dough out a bunch of times, it starts to get kind of gluten-y like bread dough. And that's when you know you got to quit. Because you then roll it out too many times. So. It's trying to shove itself, pull itself back into a little tiny circle. Pull out the rest of these. All right. So then you just want to let them finish frying up, let them drain, let them cool a little bit, and then we'll be ready to plate. Right, it's time now to finish up the pastries. We've got our Welserin pastries out of the oven, and they are delicious. And you can serve those just as is. I slice the roll on the diagonal so that it makes a nice presentation, but you can slice it how you like. For the Nola pastries, we just have one more thing that we need to do. We need to drizzle these with honey and put cinnamon sugar on them. So that's what we're going to do now. We are going to, this is some local honey that I got at the local produce place. So I'm just going to take that honey, little honey dipper, grab some of that nice, delicious honey, and I'm going to drizzle it back. Nice little strings of honey. Just a little bit of honey on the top. We're just going to drizzle it with honey. You don't want to coat it with honey. The honey is actually a lot of the sweetness that's in these, because there's really not a whole lot of sweetness in them until you put the honey on top. There's a little sugar in the filling, but there's none in the pastry dough, and so this topping is what gives them that little bit of sweetness. These are not super sweet pastries. These are lightly sweet pastries. Keep in mind that our American predilection for very, very sweet things is not shared by everyone around the world. So now I'm just going to sprinkle them a little with cinnamon sugar. Just a little sprinkle. And this technique of sprinkling, that was a little too much. Sprinkling things with cinnamon sugar is actually born out in some modern desserts. My grandmother, my Portuguese grandmother, used to make malasadas, and they're like a little fried dough, and she would shake them in a paper bag with cinnamon sugar in it to coat them in cinnamon sugar. So that is how we make these Spanish almond pastries, and they are very delicious. Let's have a bite.